Before I get started, and I've got very tough questions for you, right? So I'm a very contrarian view on what you're doing. So give us a sense what's happening around, and give us a bit about your journey.
First of all, congratulations on a wonderful event, and thank you so much for having me over. Uh, as PhonePe, proud to say that we just completed 10 years as a company in December. So we finished our first decade. When you're talking about multi-decade business, uh, I'm very proud of the first decade, and I hope that we are building an institution that outlasts us and is built for many, many decades to come. I think the journey has been phenomenal, to say the least. We've had a decade that has been transformative for India from multiple aspects. And obviously, one of the areas that has significantly accelerated not just consumer behavior, but I believe has also lent to accelerating the economy to move into the digital era has been UPI, right? And being the first private company or non-banking entity to build on top of UPI, leverage UPI for all its positives, but to actually take it well beyond just peer-to-peer money transfers and merchant payments to actually digitizing daily behavior at a population level scale, I believe is something that is both very, very, something we're very proud of, also extremely humbling, right? So PhonePe actually started with the experience that we had at Flipkart. I was at Flipkart before this, and there were 2-3 things that made us realize that unless we were going to solve payments at an infrastructure level, India is not going to transform into what we are talking about, which is becoming a truly digitized economy of scale, right? I'll give you very simple examples. Cash on delivery, which even today is something that happens on e-commerce platforms where you pay using cash at the doorstep when the product gets delivered. One of the biggest innovations that Flipkart did to allow consumers to build trust in ordering online. But cash on delivery at scale is actually almost like a noose on the neck. Cash management at scale is a problem. Counterfeit notes, transforming all the cash from the delivery hubs to the banks. You can imagine that it's actually a significant overhead, right? Similarly, when we did the first Big Billion Day, which was basically the largest sale that continues to be something that is the flagship sale for Flipkart as well as a lot of e-commerce platforms. On the first Big Billion Day, in the first 10 minutes of the event, every payment gateway in the country crashed. Nobody could actually support that kind of concurrency and scale. So what we realized is that solving payments at an infrastructure level is the first thing we need to do. And that was the genesis of PhonePe. And over the last 10 years, I believe we've not just solved that, we've gone well beyond that and now looking at true financial inclusion at scale coming in the next decade.
Interesting. So, I remember a statement not many of you would remember, which Sunil Mittal said that, last 15 years I was not sure what I was doing. Next 15 years I'm damn sure what's going to be there. So, is there something like this you speak within the PhonePe team?
I think for us, every year is basically a new challenge with new set of problems that we can solve and an excitement level that we continue to rekindle on a yearly basis. But there are decadal bets that we also take, and I'll give you a few examples of that. The fact that we are now at that journey where it's almost like two halves, right? At PhonePe, we have practically half of the country's population on our platform. Like 1 in every 2 Indians is a registered user on the PhonePe platform, almost.
Round of applause, guys.
Yeah. And we've now got the set of folks that are not just the digital natives, but the early adopters and now power users. Now there's a next set that is, a part of it is significantly only on feature phones, not migrating necessarily, fairly stubbornly on feature phones, not migrating on smartphones. There's another set that while on smartphones is still not digitally native, and it's going to take a fair amount of innovation to actually bring them on board and make them a part of this digital journey, of this digital economy, of the receiver economy, and then bring them into the digitally sender economy, right? So there's going to be solutions that range from being able to solve this at a feature phone level to being able to actually significantly leverage AI to actually break that barrier of intimidation that still exists to be able to use some of the apps that we have, whether it is PhonePe or others, and then become inclusive. So I think financial inclusion goes well beyond saying that after payments, is it insurance, is it mutual funds, is it lending, to also the fact that just to be able to use payments and create true inclusion at population level scale, is there more innovation needed? 100% is there. And I think AI brings to us all the tools that we can use to actually significantly bridge that gap in a much shorter period of time. From decadal bets, I genuinely believe that sectors like insurance, right, the level of insurance penetration in the country is still extremely low. To be able to actually get to the point where for a developed economy, you have to have a very large percentage of this population insured for health and life, I think that's a huge bet that we can take. Again, the leverage of AI in that area, to be able to ensure that the right set of products at the right life stage of the right person is delivered totally digitally. I think there's a huge bet that we are taking. So I think in general, payments, inclusion and financial services, a lot of opportunity.
I want to go deeper on that, but before that, I want to talk about the metros and the tier 2, tier 3. I mean, how is the design pivot different from a metro consumer to a maybe tier 4 or even beyond?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I know it's a cliche statement to say that there is a India and there's a Bharat. I mean, that's what we always talk about. And it's true. But I think the more important nuanced thing is there are the multiple Indias and there are multiple Bharats. When you talk about India, the beauty of our country is the diversity. And the challenge of the country is the diversity. Right?
Many countries in one country.
Many countries in one country.
Allowed to say that.
And I think it cuts across just that simplistic notion of metros, tier 1 and tier 2, right? Even if you take metros, language is not necessarily a barrier for usage, but there's a pride in being able to use your own language in every interaction, and to be able to cater to that even at a metro level is something that India brings as both a challenge as well as an opportunity for growth. Secondly, you're very, very right. I think metros, tier 1s, tier 2s, the population has been early adopters for a lot of technology. It's been fairly easy to get trials, and the best products actually win and significantly grow. The exponential growth comes after those trials. The beauty about the rest of the population, which is basically, let's call it rural India and deeper.
I want to hold you there and give me an example of something which was very small early days and became very massive from what you're saying.
I'll give you a great example, right? When we just started PhonePe, and we started doing simply peer-to-peer money transfers from one bank account to another bank account, and recharge and bill payments, we noticed one behavior that was every month, at the start of the month, folks were adding other bank account as a beneficiary and being able to actually send the money to that bank account separately, out of the fact that they could just send money to anybody else. And the funny part is both these bank accounts were on UPI. They were their own bank accounts. All they were doing is managing money between their bank accounts, like a salary account and an expense account. Simple behavior. These are already digitally savvy folks. We didn't allow to send money to yourself. All we did was simply put a very, very basic experience of transfer money between your own bank accounts across banks, right? Within a bank is very easy when you have HDFC and all, across banks, and manage that in an automated manner. As soon as we put that out, and this was just a simple data insight that we got, we saw a 30% jump in the transaction volumes overall across the board. And that continues to be this very simple feature that folks have replicated over time. But the continues to be an alpha that we see on the platform. Similarly, check balance, making a check balance very simple. We do about 400 plus million transactions, more than 40 crore transactions on a daily basis. But we do north of 50 crore balance checks on a daily basis outside of the transactions. To be able to make sure that you're able to create experiences where after a send or before a send, you're able to enable a bank balance check, adds that warm and fuzzy of whether the money has come into your account and the exact amount has left your account. And that creates stickiness. So there are a bunch of these small things that you actually have to observe as behavior that makes the platform significantly more sticky. More importantly, builds trust and value on the consumer side, right? So I think those are the kind of examples that I can share.
So that's that's good from a user case, right? But today, every usage of a data costs you, right? And it's becoming more and more interesting that how much expense you can take on those use cases. So give me a sense, how does it translate in terms of a thinking, not in practice, and from a monetization. So there are a lot of young folks who are building platforms which would be platform for future. I mean, where do you see this converting into business?
So there's a common theme about India that we are an excellent user economy. Thanks to the population bonus, we are a very, very poor customer economy. A user being somebody who uses a platform, and a customer being somebody who pays for some service, right? I think there is you need to actually focus on two things to be able to build on a value proposition for a customer, a great business also. One of the things is, are you genuinely solving something that in that transaction somebody is ready to pay for? Very, very important. Second one, do not try to focus in India, especially on the consumer side, of trying to build businesses that are over leveraging a very, very small base. Because otherwise you're a niche player, and that's fine. You can cater to a very small part of the economy. But if you're trying to actually build a massy play or a population scale play, the playbook really should be about extremely small ARPUs at huge amounts of scale that are not available anywhere else in the world, right? So we look at ourselves to say that, is the revenue per customer really small? Are there multiple use cases that we can actually expose to the customer? And in that transaction, either the customer is paying, or the distributor who's actually distributing the services on our platform, or the merchant is paying. As long as you're making a sliver of revenue on almost every transaction, and you're actually operating at population level scale, I think you have an extremely profitable and large business to build. I think small revenues at scale when you're building something at population level is the very simple mantra.
This is a very interesting thing. So I'm going to hold you on that. So give me an example wherein you've gone completely wrong and you've really made a great bet.
I think things that we've got completely wrong, I'll tell you, and there's great learnings from that also. On the merchant side, we initially, well before what you see as smart speakers, basically the devices that when you make a transaction at any small merchant, you hear this voice on a speaker talk about the fact that you've received so much money on PhonePe so that the merchant can reconcile. We had something that was actually a smart calculator, right? It used to be a calculator where the merchant can type the amount, that is so much. We've seen some amount of behavior of haggling also, especially when language has been a barrier in certain cases and you're traveling. But that was a niche use case, right? Like you're traveling from south to some deep north area, and there's potentially a language barrier, and somebody puts an amount, they see the amount, they fix the amount, and then you can tap your phone there. The amount comes on your phone through Bluetooth and you make the payment. We thought that's amazing innovation. It is something that solves a problem and the merchant would be ready to pay for it. One, we overestimated the size of that opportunity in terms of whether there's any value add in that interaction. Two, given the size of the opportunity and the fact that it was not as large as we thought, we actually overestimated the business value it would create from actually selling that device. So we went nowhere with that smart calculator, right? It continues to be one of the innovations that I'm most proud about, but it's also one of the innovations that didn't work, right? Today, the smart speakers that you see, that simple device which basically is completely non-intrusive, yet at all the merchants where there's high footfall, without any organized checkout lane, for the merchant to be able to ensure that all the transactions have reconciled and the payment has come in without him having to actually check his phone or rely on the consumer's message, has been a game changer. And that's basically a large revenue line for us in terms of the subscription that the merchant is ready to pay to actually get that comfort of settlement and reconciliation.
Sure.
Moreover, it becomes a channel of communication that we are able to actually bring in offers for the merchants and new upsell, cross-sell that we can do with the merchant. So I think overestimating the size of the opportunity based on the problem that you're solving for, as well as underestimating the power of being as non-intrusive that you're coming from the value add, is a great example of a failure as well as a huge success.
So, I want to move beyond your business, right? So you're also today one of the brightest minds when it comes to India's future in digital and financial ecosystem. So give us a sense in 5 to 10 years, or in the present time, maybe 1 to 3 years. I'm still a very old school, like she said, Sachin sir. You know, I still think 5, 10 years. But give us a sense, 1 to 2 years, where do you see things changing in the digital world before I come to the key question of AI?
I, Look, I think if you look at the last decade, what has been the thing that has been significant from a digital transformation for India? It has been some of the building blocks, right? I won't delve on it too much because it's obvious. Aadhaar as an identity, a game changer. Access to the internet. Internet was a game changer. Everybody agrees. There's no question about it. But I think what people miss is that we have leapfrogged that whole broadband economy that got created out west to become a mobile internet economy. So access to the internet through the mobile for every individual in the country, starting with 2G, 3G, 4G, and now 5G, a huge game changer as being foundational. And then obviously building blocks on top of these, like a UPI, phenomenal, because that's what has driven the API-driven economy, right? When we talk about DPI or anything else, what we miss is an API, application programming interface-driven economy, where we're able to take services to the population at scale through a digital means. So I think that's been the foundational change if you look at the last 10 years. What it has done is that it created digital economies and brought people into the digital economy. I think what the next 10 years is going to actually help India significantly is the leverage of technology to drive hyper-scale efficiency in every line of service, healthcare, just the government services, education. And I think that's what is going to actually genuinely help the economy. We have to start looking at accountability through data transparency, significant levels of automation where AI is going to play a huge role, and the connected services across these various silos that we have created to be able to actually ensure whether it is healthcare and insurance connected together, to be able to ensure that you're able to access the buy the service, access it, and utilize it when you need it in the most seamless possible manner.
Sure.
Access of data in the education economy to ensure that you're able to bring vocational skills to more and more people, right? If there's fear about jobs going away, there has to be focus on, are we trying to actually ensure that we're creating more entrepreneurs, right? Micro entrepreneurs, and how are we enabling them to drive efficiency in their daily lives of the small businesses? Because many times today, small businesses are not viable because of the inefficiencies.
Sure.
And I think that's the larger picture that technology can, if we all focus on that, manufacturing, efficiencies in manufacturing, I think it will be a game changer for India, and AI is a huge opportunity there.
So if there was a bet you have to make, that this is something I'm going to bet next $1 billion or whatever it is. Give us one or two those things which you are very, very excited about. We've heard about insurance. I think that's a space that you're committed to.
Look, I think there isn't any singular bet. I divide up my world into kind of broadly two buckets, right? In the payments and financial services. There's one world which is extremely utilitarian, and we already are that service where you can get in and get out and get what you need to get done in a very short period of time, right? Our session times within the app is sub 15 seconds. That's because your scan and pays, your recharge, everything, there's very little juice in trying to make it significantly more efficient. Then there's these other bucket set of services where the buying decision has to have a significant amount of research. And the way research is done today, I think is going to significantly transform with AI. So for the set, whether it is investments, whether it's insurance, whether it is about access of credit, right? The right amount of credit, whether it's about understanding your credit worthiness in a way that you can actually change your life to get more and more credit worthy. I feel that segment of research-oriented services, I'm super excited about the transformation in that area through AI. Whether it's access through vernacular language, whether it is complete DIY about taking control about your data and using your data for accessing the services, or ultimately it's about even agentic flows to able to complete it with or without the app, right? So there are those two buckets. The second bucket where it is research oriented and the buying decision has a significant high cognitive overload today, I think is the one that is going to get disrupted positively.
Excellent. That's all I have in my bucket for Rahul. to answer. I can take two questions in the meantime. We'll go by, I will have that gentleman ask the question. Introduce yourself. We don't have,
You're not allowed to have questions.
no, we have one question. The one question is allowed. My editors just warned me you're not prepared, but we'll take that question. Don't ask me anything because I know nothing, so it's all. Introduce yourself and ask a question to Rahul.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. This is Ankit Kanodia. I'm a SEBI registered investment advisor. My firm's name is Zen Nivesh Advisors Private Limited. Thank you so much for this lovely session. And just one question, which is, as you talked about the utilitarian and research come experience side. While I see companies like you doing a lot of things already, do you have any view on payment banks in general who are also transitioning into small finance banks? Do you see them as your competition, or do you see them as collaborators in this journey? And that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I think this question has come up in different forms, banks versus fintechs. Payment banks moving to small finance banks doesn't make it any different. I genuinely believe, and it's been proved out over the last many years, where what used to be a question is fintech going to kill banks or is banks a competition? We've proved that there is a genuine partnership model, right? We are a payments and financial services distribution platform at population level scale to be able to bring that intelligent distribution where you're able to access the right set of customers for your products is an opportunity for every bank. And to be partnering with those banks on the retail side is, I believe, a win-win situation. Whether it's a payments bank transitioning into a small finance bank, or a universal bank. We look at every partnership to be able to bring the right products to the right customers on our platform as a win-win for both of us. Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up, or?
You give it to the lady next. Yeah.
Good morning, Rahul. PhonePe has actually now become a synonym to the digital payment. It's like the Xerox of photocopying. So congratulations to the entire PhonePe team for that.
Thank you.
The question I'm Hanshu Desai. I work with Neo Wealth. I've been in the BFSI sector for about 2 decades now. And the question I have is that frauds have been one of the most strong dampeners to the entire digital payment and inclusion. So what do you do to work along with the regulator? Because I believe regulator also has been very supportive in terms of providing the impetus to growth of the industry. So how do you really work along with the regulator to make the entire payment infrastructure safer from the customer perspective also? Thank you.
No, great question. In a very, to answer it in a time-bound manner, because we do a lot of things by ourselves with the ecosystem and obviously working very closely with the regulator, specifically RBI on the payment side. I think the RBI has been an excellent regulator in terms of balancing being progressive and pushing technology to continuously change the landscape, at the same time looking at how we can actually tackle anything that is an impediment like frauds. So we work with them on 2 axes. One is on education and awareness. I don't know whether you've seen, there's been, so every year we have with RBI the digital payments awareness campaign launched. They have some amazing campaign videos that are there. We do the same thing by ourselves, as well as we make sure that every campaign that the regulator is doing reaches all the audience like our the users. On the other side, we work with them on the technology axis, right? So I think the RBI Innovation Hub, a good example is the RBI Innovation Hub has built something that is like Mule Hunter, which is basically the ability to try and zero in on what are potentially identifies as mule accounts to prevent money laundering, to be able to use that network and make it a part of our decisioning on risk and fraud is a great example of how we're using technology. The second one is working with the Department of Telecom. to be able to actually ensure that any phone number that has fraud signals as identified by the Department of Telecom at any threshold level, we actually look at it from three perspectives. One, just warn the user. Two, actually create an obstacle for the user when they're trying to send money to that phone number. Three, block the transaction because it has a high fraud alert. So I think connected networks of technology, which is kind of the example I was giving that about how can we drive more efficiency by being connected through technology. This is another very good example of how we actually do that. Yeah.
Thank you. So that's all we have time for. Just closing remarks from you, Rahul. It's been an amazing discussion. Yeah.
No, thank you so much for having us. I genuinely believe that given the theme about entrepreneurship, entrepreneurs, the future in our country, when everybody asks the question about, oh my God, is AI going to be disruptive in the negative way? The positive ways people are aligned, but they worry about the negative way and the job situation. While yes, there may be situations where certain skills are completely handed off, we as humans will build new skills, but the most important thing is that entrepreneurial mindset. I genuinely believe that we have to do everything to actually grassroots build more and more entrepreneurial spirit across the country and use technology in every way, small or large, to become efficient businesses where we can actually take the goods and services that we are bringing to the audience in a viable manner. And I think that's what is going to hold us together for the next many years.
Great.